Okay, good afternoon all, and we can start today's session. In the first two sessions, we have uh, focused on a relatively very complex kind of a analytical tool that most of the researchers they deploy when they deal with a pretty large set of variables. And factor analysis is used as a data summarization tool and to understand the underlying factor structure. And as we have also discussed that factor analysis is basically an interdependence tool, and when the researchers starts deploying factor analysis, he or she at the very beginning, when they are taking a decision to deploy factor analysis, they are not sure about the existence of a predefined or a preconceived set of dependent and independent variables. Okay, so however, we came to understand that once you move forward from the exploratory level to the confirmatory level, you are moving from an interdependence technique to gradually to a dependence technique. So when we are taking up confirmatory factor analysis, the fundamental difference between the EFA and CFA that we understood that while doing the EFA, it is not necessarily a fact that it will be backed up by any kind of working hypothesis or the hypothesis framed by the researcher based on literature review, or to that extent, it is not supported by some kind of a theory. But as we move ahead to deploy a confirmatory factor analysis, confirmatory factor analysis is necessarily backed up by a theory or at least some kind of an hypothesis. So once we are in a position to create a hypothetical representation of the variables, so the relationship between the variables, we are in a position to conceive a theoretical framework or a default model or a theoretical model, which is subsequently to be tested. So in a confirmatory factor analysis, what we do in addition to what we have already done in exploratory factor analysis, in the exploratory factor analysis, we have identified the factors, because I told you that it is the responsibility of the researcher to nomenclate, to name the factors that is extracted. Suppose you started with 50 variables, and the 50 variables were, out of 50 variables, say 35 variables loaded very significantly on 5 factors. Okay, so it is now the responsibility of the researcher to name that particular factor. So that entire data set is having an underlying 5-factor structure. So you need to name those factors. And we have also understood that how to name those factors. Now, to provide a very apt kind of a name or a justified name or a justified nomenclature to those factors or dimensions that are extracted, you need to be very thorough with the variables. Which are the variables that have significantly loaded in a particular factor? Read the variable and try to understand the suggested meaning, what those variables are actually pointing to. Then identify a suitable nomenclature for that particular factor. So this is where the factor analysis ends, exploratory factor analysis ends, identification of the factor structure. Now, when we proceed towards the confirmatory factor analysis, we need to validate this measurement model. The question of validation comes to play. So in a confirmatory factor analysis, we are confirming whatever we have received as an output from the EFA. So the entire measurement model is validated. Now, once the measurement model is validated, as I have told you, when you are ready with confirmatory factor analysis, you are ready with some kind of a theory in your mind, or you are using a kind of existing theory, or you are having a theoretical model, or you are having a hypothesis being framed. So now you can shift from an interdependence technique, which you have already deployed. You have deployed and identified the factors. Now, using the theory, you are creating some kind of a dependence relationship between all those factors. And thereby, you are proposing a theoretical model or a set of hypotheses to test. So once the measurement model is validated with the help of confirmatory factor analysis, in the last session, we have shared knowledge that we need to identify the convergent validity. We need to identify the discriminant validity. It can be done manually because there are certain indices with the help of which we can do that, like average variance extracted or composite reliability. We can do it manually, or there is a stat package tool which can be downloaded from StatWiki website, and you can use this tool. This is a multifarious tool which gives you opportunity or scope to do a lot of computation. But in the very first working sheet of this particular Excel package, you will find a validity master, which will help you to compute the this kind of a validity, all the validity issues. So once the scale is validated, or once the measurement model is validated, not only the validation part, you have to also check the goodness of fit indices to understand whether the scale is quite robust, whether the scale is good enough, or the measurement model is good enough to actually extend the measurement model for other studies also. So there are a number of goodness of fit indices, like GFI is there, AGFI is there, TLI is there, CFI is there, normed indexes are there, and side by side there are certain badness of fit indices. So higher the value of the goodness of fit indices, preferably greater than 0.9, your measurement model is considered to be robust enough for lateral extension in other studies in different contexts. In other words, we can generalize this particular measurement model to a large extent. But if you have smaller values of the goodness of fit indices, then unfortunately, the measurement model is considered to be weak. So you need to re-explore whether your variable set that you used during the exploratory factor analysis, is there a problem in that particular set only. The second thing is, in an opposite direction, your badness of fit indices, particularly the RMR value and the RMSEA, the root mean square error approximation values, this should not be a very large value. Or normally the reference values are very close to 0.04 and 0.05. So if it exceeds that value, that means again your measurement model is a weak one and not a very robust one to be applied generally or to be adopted generally for other contexts also. So once you have a good measurement model, good and validated, or you can say strong and validated measurement model, then you can use your theory or the hypothesis that you have already framed, or the theoretical model that you have already framed, that these are the factors, and you are proposing that these factors are in some kind of a relationship. Because we normally, when we propose our hypothesis, we actually assume that the variables are associated in a certain way. There can be predictive relationship, there can be association relationship. So use your theory to propose some kind of a dependence model. Okay, so from the interdependence technique, we have gradually shifted to the dependence technique. So one step forward to the CFA is leading us to assess now the structural model. So we have validated the measurement model. Now we are going to assess the structural model. So let me just share my screen and go back to our old slide. Yeah, we were studying this one, the study of theory of planned behavior, and we have seen that there are in total 5 identified factors. Okay, so let me take you there. Yeah, with the help of our confirmatory factor analysis, if we see the measurement model that we did in the last session, we have identified a five factor structure, but this is the theory we have started with, the theory of planned behavior, and we have identified the five factors as attitude, subjective norm, perceived behavioral control, purchase intention, and purchase behavior. Now, this structural model that we want to draw, if we go by the theory, and if we want to test the existing theory in a very specific context, the context is our research question or our research perspective. So we are using basically an existing theory to a very specific context, or to address a specific research question that we have designed for us. So theory of planned behavior, or the TPB, we have already validated the factors. So now we are saying that this attitude, this subjective norm, and the perceived behavioral control, all these three factors which were validated and identified, we are considering it as an independent set of factors or independent set of variables, and we hypothesize that these three variables are influencing the purchase behavior. Okay, so this is the first order dependent variable, and which in turn our purchase behavior, our purchase intention, and which in turn is subsequently influencing the purchase behavior. So this is our second order dependent variable. So our hypothesis is, say hypothesis 1, attitude influences purchase intention. Hypothesis 2, subjective norm influences purchase intention. Perceived behavioral control influences purchase intention, and purchase intention impacts or influences the purchase behavior. So we have one dependent variable over here, the first order dependent variable, and the second order dependent variable is the purchase behavior. Remember one thing, this is the tested theoretical framework, and many researchers over the years have tested it, have used it in different contexts. Okay, now you as a researcher may identify a variable which may see, this is just an option and just a discussion. As a researcher, you may identify a variable by virtue of a review of literature, or by virtue of the context, or by virtue of the perspective against which you are studying. Say, for example, I'm giving you a very contemporary example. Say this particular theoretical model, the theory of planned behavior, it works very well under circumstances which are very certain. Okay, very certain. But if I try to use this model in conditions which are very uncertain, or in other words, if I say conditions which are very turbulent, okay, then whether the same model will hold good, or the entire purchase behavior, can it be explained simply by using this kind of a relationship, or there may be intervention of some other kind of variable. Say, for example, if you want to study the purchase behavior in the pre-COVID era, probably this particular theoretical model would have held good, because in a pre-COVID era, there were at least minimum, there were uncertainties, but the kind of uncertainty that has crept in now, probably you cannot compare it with the normal environment during the pre-COVID times. And now if I want to use this model to understand the purchase behavior during the COVID times, or at least since we do not have anything called post-COVID as of now, so during the COVID times, there can be certain added variables. So only the intention will impact the purchase behavior. It may not be a very linear kind of relationship. Okay, so if I am changing the context of the study, or if I am changing the entire perspective of the study, and if I am selecting, or if I am placing the study on a very contemporary kind of ecosystem, or against the backdrop of contemporary environment, probably another variable may moderate or may mediate the relationship between these two factors or these two variables. So having a purchase intention will linearly lead to a particular kind of a purchase behavior that may not be a case in the contemporary situation that we are going through. So probably you have heard about certain issues called panic buying behavior. So panic buying or tendency to overstock products. We have seen in 2020 during the month of say July, August, September, June, July, August, September, how consumers actually behaved with regard to purchase of medicines, with regard to purchase of groceries, with regard to purchase COVID healthcare related healthcare products. So it was almost like a panic buying, which was quite irrational in nature. So it was not supported by any kind of rationality or logic. So if I want to assess this particular model in a specific context, as a researcher, you are free to insert variables which you want to test these variables, whether they actually have any kind of an intervening effect between our existing variables. So you are free to do that, provided you have a good literature support and you can actually frame an intervening variable. So you are changing, you are proposing a linear relationship which would have existed in the pre-COVID time. You are changing it into a very non-linear kind of a relationship. However, in our case, we will stick with the normal, theoretical model, and as a result of which we are supposed to get four hypotheses. So this will be H1, attitude influencing purchase intention, subjective norm influencing purchase intention. This is H2. H3 will be perceived behavioral control influencing PI, and this will be the H4. The purchase intention will determine the purchase behavior. All the purchase behavior is impacted by purchase intention. So again, we need to go back to our drawing board. That means to our AMOS, and we now this was the measurement model which we draw last time. So now we need to draw the structural model. Now you see the shape of the structural model is such. The shape of the structural model is such, where it has gone. Yeah, the shape of the structural model is such, probably this portrait alignment of your page won't help. Okay, so you can go to this view. Okay, so at the upper navigation panel, you click the interface property, and this paper size you can change to say landscape A4 and apply. So your paper size will be altered, and this will nicely accommodate all the drawings or the structural model. So we start with what? We start with the basic drawings, so you know from where to get all these help. So I click this particular thing. The last time I use it to draw our, the latent factors, or the factors now that has been identified and validated and measured already. So the first one was attitude with a 4 variable associationship. Okay, so this was one. So let me just rotate it by using this one. So this is the first one. Let me draw the second one, which is subjective norm. The subjective norm is a 3 variable construct. So again, let me rotate it. The third one is perceived behavioral control. So again, it is a 4 factor or a 4 attribute factor. So we can again change the direction. Now we are just want to preserve the symmetry. So we are clicking this flower bouquet over here, and let it remain selected in that way only, and we are using the truck to move these things. Okay, so we can nicely arrange all our independent set of variables with their observed dimensions. So these are the latent dimensions, so the latent factors. This is attitude, this is subjective norm, and this is the perceived behavioral control. So three set of independent variable. Now let us draw the let me just drag it a little bit, and now let us draw the first dependent variable. So we again click to our drawing tool. So this is the purchase intention with three observed variables. So let us rotate it, let us bring it down, okay, so that it can be aligned nicely. And the second one is the purchase behavior with three. Okay, so we can just rotate it right. Fine. So let me use the truck once more and bring it everything in a nice way. Yeah. Now you see, in the last time we talked about the endogenous variables, the dependent variables. So as a dependent variables, it is also supposed to have an error term. So we need to associate an error term with this particular factor. Okay, so over here in the second row, third column, you can find this is saying that add a unique variable to an existing variable. So we need to add an error term over here. You can select this particular icon and bring it over here, and you can associate it with a error term. Similarly, in case of this one, since this is also a dependent variable, an error term has to be associated with it. So there are two additional error terms that has come into this entire structural model. So now you have almost halfway of drawing your structural model. Now you have to use the connectors, okay? Because in while designing the model, or while drawing this particular models, we have used these connectors to represent how these variables are interrelated with each other. So we use in the second row, in the first column, there is a single arrow. So you can draw an arrow and connect all the variables, related variables. So if these are randomly drawn, and if you feel that a certain kind of beautification or corrections are required, in the last class we shared that there is a magic wand. You can just click it and just click it over here so that everything becomes straight and nice, very symmetrical orientation. So you may deselect it, and one more one-way arrow we require from purchase intention to purchase behavior. So this has completed our actually relationship between the variables. So this entire structural model has been drawn. Now only thing is remaining, it's the the covariances between the independent variables. So in the last class we have seen that how we can automatically draw the covariances. So what you can do, again, come to this fourth row, first column, you will find this is a selection tool. You click it and you just click on to these latent variables, or the factors. So all the factors are selected. How do you know all the factors are selected? Its peripheral area will turn blue, the outline will turn blue. So once all the factors are selected, then you go to this upper hand navigational tool and click the plugin tab, and obviously you come to this particular choice, draw covariances. You just click it and the covariances will be drawn. Now let me arrange the covariances in such a way so that it looks nice and doesn't go through these small square boxes, because in the square boxes we have to write the put the label or the abbreviation of the observed variable. So we can use this particular tool and we can actually drag it in this direction so that it looks nice. Okay, again, you can use the magic wand and just click it if it is required. Yeah, it can be done in a nice way. We can also reduce this to a certain extent. Yeah, so everything you can do, and then you can click the deselect. So if you click the deselect, that everything will be deselected. And this is the structural model that we have drawn. So we have finished drawing the structural model. Okay, now we have to do two things. One, we have to import the data, and then we have to populate this particular structural model with all the labelings. So let us import the data so you know where to go. In row number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th row, first column, over here you see the select data files. You click it, and then you go on searching the data that you want to bring in over here. So I have a data of theory of planned behavior over here open. We are using the same data that we have used to validate the measurement scale. So we are using basically the same data. So okay, now if you click this, the list variables in the data set, if you click this, you can see that the data has come. Okay, now just drag and drop these things. And in the last time also we faced this difficulty that the moment I drag it, the entire text label comes to play, but I want only the representation in a coded form. So I'm just undoing this particular process and going back to my view and interface properties. In miscellaneous, you just deselect or uncheck this first box which says display variable labels. By default, it will remain selected. So once you deselect it, you just simply click apply. Okay, and now you can actually drag and drop all the labels of the observed variables. So this was the task that we did in the last session also. For attitude, for subjective norms, we have 3 variables. So those are dragged. For the perceived behavioral control, we have 4 variables from PBC1 to PBC4. So there are 4 variables. We have dragged all. And then the purchase intention over here, PI1, PI2, and PI3. And the last one, the purchase behavior, PB1, PB2, and then the PB3. Probably you may recall that the last time our this third factor, or the purchase behavior, it did not have very good score. Particularly, we had 3 observed variables, but with regard to 2 variables, we did not have very significant factor loading. As a result of which, in the overall measurement model, if we have some kind of you can say weakness of the measurement model, it is with regard to this particular factor, that is purchase behavior. Unfortunately, we did not have a very good factor loading for PB1 and PB3. For PB2, at least for one variable we got, but PB1 and PB3 were less than 0.7, and which was not acceptable. Anyway, we are using this as a demo, as a representative to understand the technical issues associated with the structural model. So now that we have finished labeling all the observed variables, now let us just label the factors. So you can double click and a window will open which says object properties, and you simply type it out. Okay. So first one is attitude. The second one is subjective norm. The third one is perceived behavioral control. Okay, so these are our 3 independent variables according to our theory, according to our proposed hypothesis. Now, the first dependent variable is the purchase intention. And the second dependent variable is the purchase behavior. Okay, so the dependent independent variables were labeled. Now we need to label the error terms. So this is this will be E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6, E7, E8, E9. This Amos is a very user-friendly kind of software or a platform with not that difficulty should be faced by the researcher to use it. And any kind of I will show you once the result is obtained. If any particular terminology is not understood by you, you simply click on the result and you will get an elaboration. Okay, I will just show you. E12, E12, E13, E14, E15, E16, E17. And we have two new error terms associated with our first order and second order dependent variable. That will be E18 and E19. So that completes the labeling part. Now we are ready. See, our structural model is ready to be tested. Okay, so what we need to do now is to fix up the analyzing property. Okay, so the properties, analyzing properties over here. So we stick with the maximum likelihood model. But in the output, we now have to fix the standardized estimates, indirect, direct, and total effects. Okay, we can click on those that particular box, the covariance of estimates, correlation of estimates, and squared multiple correlations. If you want to manually calculate the discriminant value, the discriminant validity value of this particular structural model, then you can click squared multiple correlations. Or otherwise, if you want to use that StatWiki package or the stat tool, then it's not required. So let us close it, and now let us run this particular computation or calculation of the estimates. Now, once I click this calculation of the estimates, in the last session also we shared this particular thing, that it will ask you to save this particular page, or to save this particular computation. So once I click calculate estimate, it will just ask me to save it. So yesterday we saved it as TPB1. Today we are saving it as TPB2 and saving it. So you see, yesterday in the last session we told that the moment you see this red color arrow is activated, that means your calculation has been successfully done. This one. So you see, these are all the standardized estimates, and these are all the unstandardized estimates. These are all the standardized estimates. Okay, so once this model is obtained, we can just go to the results. So this is the box which says view text. You click it to get the result. So you can make it full screen. Now you can get, to start with, you will get the chi-square value, the degrees of freedom, and the probability, the significance level, etc. You can also get the number of distinct sample moments over here. Number of distinct parameters to be estimated is 41. Why the number of distinct parameters to be estimated is 41? You can calculate it from here only. See, there are 17 observed variables. In the last class we have seen there are 17 error variances from the measurement model. So 17 error variables from the measurement model and 17 observed variables. So 17 plus 17 is 34. There are 5 identified factors. So 5 plus 34 is 39. And additionally, for the structural model, we have 2 more error variances, the error terms. So we are having 39 plus 2, that is 41. So in total, number of distinct parameters that is to be estimated is 41. So the degree of freedom is calculated. Sample number of distinct parameters to be estimated is subtracted from the sample moment. So it's 153 minus 41. It's 112. So now see the estimates. Go to the scalars. Let us see the regression weights. These are the regression weights. So you have got the estimation, the standard errors, and the critical ratio. And in the last session, we have said that how to obtain this critical ratio. When we are dividing this estimate with standard error, we are supposed to get this critical ratio. Critical ratio is nothing but the Z value. So if I click over here, you see it's nothing but the Z value. In the normal statistics, we obtain the Z value. So it is 0.156 divided by 0.029. So 0.156 is the estimate, and 0.029 is the standard error. So exactly that we have said. And I have just told you that if you do not understand what this value stands for, you simply click on this value. Then you will get an understanding what this value exactly represents, or how this value is exactly obtained. So this is a very useful kind of a platform. Even if you are getting certain output values, and if you are not sure that what output value means and how it is calculated, if you just simply click onto this output value, you will get the information. Okay, so these are the standardized regression weights. We will use these standardized regression weights to check the validity of this particular structural model. These are the covariances. Again, the estimation, standard error, and critical ratios are given. This is the correlation structure. And if you want to manually compute the discriminant validity, you will require this, the squared multiple correlations. Let us go to the model fit, because you need to report this. Again, you see, since we have used the same data set, unfortunately, the goodness of fit indices like this GFI, AGFI, and parsimony goodness of fit index, that is the PGFI, these are very, very low. As we have told, that the standardized acceptable figure is 0.9 and over. So unfortunately, this model is not that great, not that robust, so that it can be used as a general model. Similarly, if I see the RMR value for the default model, it is 0.354. It is way above the the acceptable level of 0.04, or at the most 0.05. Similarly, in case of RMSEA also, unfortunately for the default model, the RMSEA value is 0.288. It should be close to 0.04. So as far as this the robustness of the model is concerned, or the generalizability of the model is concerned, it's not that good. But anyway, let us check the validity issues also. For the validity issue, checking the validity issue, we will be using the same stats tool package. So let us just use it. Otherwise, you can calculate it manually, the average variance extracted and the composite reliability. So we will do the same thing that we have done for the measurement model. So we will paste the correlation table in A2, this particular column A row 2, and we will paste the standardized regression weight in column F in row 2. So let us get back to the our result. So first the correlation. So we can copy it, just click it and right click it, and you can copy it. Come back to this stat package, you can paste it. Again, let us go back to the result to find the standardized regression weights. You click it, right click it, copy it, go back to your Excel sheet, and you paste it over here. That's very convenient. You can use this particular Excel package. So once you have pasted the correlation and the standardized regression weight, the only thing you have to do now is to click this red button. So everything is in order. You just click it, and you see the validities are clarified for this structural model. So fortunately, the this CR value, or the composite reliability, which should be greater than 0.7, it has been achieved for all the three. You see, for all the three variables. For the average variance extracted, it is greater than zero point 0.5. And this is basically, as I have told you earlier, also the discriminant validity. The principal diagonal value is having a value which is greater than the row values. Okay, so 0.799 is greater than 0.077, indicative of that discriminant validity is achieved. Although in the last session we also told that the kind of a data set that was in our hand and the kind of results that we have got, although we have a validated model, both measurement and the structural model, but unfortunately it's not a very robust kind of a model or a very good model, because we have not seen that the second order dependent variable is having any kind of factor loading for its observed variables. So these three observed variables, that means the data that we have collected against these three observed variables, are not that good, which can have a significant factor assignment with the latent factor, that is the purchase behavior. So probably we need to go back and conduct the survey once more, probably, or we need to find out certain more items for this particular scale, for this particular construct measurement, because we have a 5 construct measurement in this particular measurement scale. There are 5 constructs: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5: attitude, subjective norm, the perceived behavioral control, purchase intention, and purchase behavior. Unfortunately, for this particular construct, the measurement was not good. So we need to, revisit our scale item generation that we have done with the help of our literature review, with the help of the contextual situation or the context under which we are having this particular study. And we need to redefine this particular measurement scale, this particular measurement scale item generation has to be refined for this particular construct. Otherwise, you have got an idea that how from a very simple exploratory factor analysis, which helps us in identifying this 5 structure from a huge data set, we only had all these 17 observed variables. So we did not have any understanding that how these 17 variables can measure certain factors. So we did not have an understanding when we started with these 17 variables. And these 17 variables, we can say, is a bare minimum kind of scenario that a researcher in practical situation has to confront when he or she opts for factor analysis. Normally, the number of observed variables are more than 25, 30. So it's a large data set. So identification of that particular factor structure to start with in our EFA, moving on to confirmation of that particular factor structure, that means the measurement model, and then using a theory to lay out the relationship or proposing the relationship between the identified factors and test the relationship. So you use any existing theory, or you propose a theory, you propose a theoretical framework or a default model, support it with the hypothesis construction, and then go ahead with the testing of the structural model. And I was telling that even if you want to insert any additional variable, because this is a tested theory or a tested measurement construct across the globe, across different areas of social science, this theory of planned behavior. So this is a tested scale that we are using. Now if I want to contextualize it, if I want to fit it into a definite perspective or a different a definite kind of an environmental situation, which is very novel, which is very unfamiliar, as we have shared the example that during this COVID time, probably this kind of linear relationship may not exist, and in future also the kind of trauma, the kind of shock that the consumers have gone through, particularly with related to the healthcare scenario, probably see, if I use this particular model to understand the investment of consumers in health insurance, it will give a remarkable result, because over the last 2 years, almost last, yeah, you can say 2 years, the kind of you can say exponential growth in the health insurance market that we have seen, remarkably driven by this COVID infection and the fear psychosis, etc. So obviously, if I want to fit this particular model in the contemporary condition for a particular market, or for a particular kind of service, it may be the hospital service or the medical services or healthcare insurances or life insurances, you will find a definite escalation from a normal result, or certain exponential growth, or a very random change in the purchase behavior. And there may be certain other additional variables or additional factors that may come into play. So this is all about the confirmatory factor analysis and the structural equation modeling. And one more thing that we have shared, that unfortunately on this platform, that means on this SPSS platform, it's very difficult to address the formative models. All these things that you are seeing here, these are the reflective models. So if you are using the formative model, probably you can use a different kind of a software like smart PLS and all that. We can make best use of them. uh, Additionally, those scholars or those researchers who unfortunately may not access this Amos platform, we have said that there is another platform which is available, not the instructor version, which is obviously not free, but we can have a student version. You can use it. Let me write out the name. This is also available in the internet, so you can use it, which is called Lizrael. Okay, so you can use this. This will do the CFA as well as the SEM, the structural equation model. So Lizrael you can use this. This is also a very user-friendly kind of platform, and the student version you can easily download and use if you cannot have the access to the Amos. So all those with regard to factor analysis. Now today, since we have dealt with interdependence technique, at least let us have a quick look into one of the dependence technique. Okay, so this is the original session that we are supposed to have today. We had a little bit spillover from the last two sessions. So this is a dependence technique that we normally follow, and most of the firms there in the industry, uh, two analysis are very important. One is the interdependence technique that most of the companies are using. One is the cluster analysis, which is an interdependence technique, and this conjoint analysis. This is also a very significant tool that is used by the consultancy firms, by the market research agencies, and whereby they want to understand a very complex decision making process of the buyers or the consumers, how the decisions are being framed. Okay, so conjoint analysis is used by the market research organizations or the market consultancy organizations to have an understanding that when a individual buyer like me, like you, is making a decision to purchase a product or a service, or to purchase a concept or a prototype based on certain kind of attributes of the product or services, what will be the desired combination of those attributes or characteristics or configurational issues that will give the customer or the buyer the best trade-off. We normally talk about the cost benefit analysis, with the minimum cost, how we can get the maximum value, or the price value ratio, with a kind of optimal price, how can we optimize the value, how we can drag the maximum value out of a particular proposition in terms of purchasing a product or in terms of purchasing a service. So there, this conjoint analysis technique is used, and it is a very interesting technique which will give you certain idea that what will be. See, let us give you a very practical implication of this. Most of us these days are habituated in purchasing online, so we use a number of e-commerce sites. You go to Amazon, you go to Flipkart, and there are dozens of other e-commerce sites, and you will find the moment you start using these e-commerce, if you are new to the e-commerce site, it will take some time for that particular database and algorithm that drives those e-commerce site will take some time, but very soon they will have a complete profiling of you. Okay, and this complete profiling will depend on what things you are surfing, what things you are purchasing, etc. So you say, so they will analyze your browsing habit, they will analyze your purchases, etc. They can also analyze certain queries, and then something which has been developed nowadays, apart from the search engine, because we use the search engine to find out things. Apart from the search engine, particularly by the e-commerce sites, they have developed something called recommendation engine. Okay, it is not only applicable for the e-commerce sites only, but it is also applicable for the emerging OTT platforms. Okay, like Netflix and Amazon Prime, etc. So once you start viewing something, the entire algorithm, or the concept behind this will quickly profile you, and they will only give you recommendations of something that you should also watch. So in case of e-commerce platforms also, the moment you purchase certain things, and moment you browse certain things, the moment you gather information about certain things, the machine, with the help of, say, artificial intelligence, or by virtue of other techniques, by virtue of clicks, etc., or we call it a digital footprint, by virtue of calculating or computing that digital footprint, would easily understand your taste, your preferences, your choices, your frequency of purchase, your ability to recommend, etc., etc. And now, if all these things are converged, say for example, your social network profile is converging with this e-commerce platform, then they will quickly understand what is your role, what may be your role as an influencer. Okay, so if you are a person who is having 1 million Twitter followers, or if you are a person with more than 1,000 friends in the Facebook page, these e-commerce site can quickly realize that you can be a very potent influencer in influencing a big group of customers. Okay, so these days these have become very important. And why I referred, or you have cited this particular example, probably you have noticed that these days when you are selecting products in any e-commerce site, if you scroll down the page at the very bottom, you will find, once you are zeroing on or focusing on a particular model of cell phone to be purchased, or a particular laptop to be purchased, or any other electronic products to be purchased, at the very bottom of the page they will create a kind of a comparative analysis between multiple brands. So if you are interested to purchase a mobile from Samsung, at the very bottom of the page they will pick up at random mobile phones with almost similar kind of configuration, and then they will allow you, because this is providing with you with some kind of additional information, because initially you are only focusing on a specific brand with a certain kind of configuration, and you are oblivious about the fact what are the other variants which are available in the market, which are very close to these configurations. So once that comparative chart floats up, it gives certain added advantage for the customer to make a comparison and then take a decision. Now the question is, it helps the customer to take a decision, but if I go to the other side of the picture, that means from the manufacturer's perspective or from the marketer's perspective, they have to take a decision that what will be the optimal combination of the attributes, isn't it? What will be that particular combination of characteristics or configuration or specifications for my product which will have maximum consumer demand, okay, given a particular price level. So there, this conjoint analysis or the conjoint technique is heavily used. So wherever there is a multi-element, specification driven kind of a product or a service concept, the marketers or the manufacturers often use it to find out that optimal level of combinational attributional combination that will have the maximum demand. So let us just get a brief idea about this conjoint analysis. It was developed in the early half of the 1970s, when this particular statistical procedure was cropping up, and particularly when the industry realized that they can use it to identify the best combination of the attributes for a product or a service. So marketers, they easily caught on to this particular phrase, that features considered jointly. Okay, so it is called a conjoint. Features which are considered jointly. That means if I want to purchase a cell phone, so whether the screen size along with the megapixel of camera, and what kind of a processor and what kind of an internal memory storage, etc., what will be the ideal combination, or what are the features that are considered jointly before making that purchase decision. So this is a very complex kind of a decision, and often we have seen that the customers are also in a fix to determine which one to buy, because everything doesn't depend on this configuration. Suppose you get two particular products with absolutely similar configuration, then probably a fascination for the brand becomes the decisive factor. Even if the prices are equal, then obviously there will be a brand fascination, and then it moves from a very rational grounding to a very emotional grounding. So emotionally, how you are attached to a particular brand, or what is your personal perception about a particular brand. So this designing a particular product and deciding on the fact that how many configurations to be retained, because you see, if you keep on increasing features, if you keep on adding features, if you keep on adding specification, that does not mean that the consumer will be preferring it. So number of features is not directly proportional to the increased kind of a choice by the customer. So it has been seen, because, and one more thing, the number of specifications you are adding, the number of features you are adding, it will be very, very difficult for the producer to control over the price. So it has to be a trade-off between features, between price, between quality, and between the demand side factor, or the demand side pull on behalf of the customer. So this is a very delicate kind of an issue. So different perspective, different goals that we have already studied, that buyers want all of the most desirable features at the lowest possible price. Yes, that's the natural tendency of the buyers, a natural tendency of me, natural tendency of all of us. And sellers want to maximize profits by minimizing the cost of providing those features and providing products that offer greater overall value than the competition. So for a manufacturer also is a big challenge, because the buyers will try to drive the price down and will try to increase the level of accepted quality, because and to make a trade-off between these two, it will be very difficult. So how does this conjoint analysis work? There are certain issues which normally is to be taken up in conjoint analysis. So let us go directly to that. So this I have already explained. What's so good about this conjoint? More realistic question. So if I ask you this question, that would you prefer a mobile phone with a dual rear camera of 24 megapixel and 12 megapixel with a battery backup of 4000 mAh, or there is a triple rear camera with much higher megapixel? That means you are supposed to get much clarity in your picture, and uh, much good quality picture with 128 megapixel plus 24 plus 12, but with a battery support of 2700 mAh. So now you have to decide which you will be focusing. So there are customers who prefer a better battery backup compared to the quality of the camera. There can be certain buyers who can prefer a good quality camera feature, even with a compromised battery backup power. So it really depends on what kind of customers you are approaching to. But we in the market, we see these kind of features which exist, and these kind of products which coexist. That means the manufacturer who is manufacturing it are very sure about the existence of multiple groups of customers with multiple kind of preferences. So let us not go into the theoretical details. This is the objective of the conjoint analysis. So obviously a new product development on the basis of configuration, attributes, or specification. Now, there are basically, when you are designing the conjoint analysis, there are two specific methodology. You see, although it is written over here traditional, adaptive, and choice based, actually it is basically two: adaptive conjoint analysis and choice based conjoint analysis. Now, choice based conjoint analysis is applicable when the number of factors or characteristics or attributes of a particular product or service is relatively lower. That means, say, within 5 and 6 factors or attributes, you are limiting your particular product. Then you can go for the choice based conjoint analysis. Choice based means you can go for a detailed study with the customers and give the customers an option to select from the limited number of factors or attributes and go for all permutations and combinations. But in case of an adaptive conjoint analysis, which is also a kind of a decompositional conjoint analysis, which we will understand, when the number of attributes or factors are pretty large, and since the number of factors and attributes is pretty large, then the number of stimuli will also be large. We will understand what stimuli is all about. The number of stimuli or permutations and combinations will also be large. So there, without focusing on the individual factors and attributes per product or per service, the customers are allowed to focus on the end product itself. Okay, and then they are given a kind of a comparison between multiple products or multiple brands. The example that we have shared just a few minutes back, that what happens in the e-commerce site, you were navigated, you were you are guided to a particular section of the page where you are given all those comparative charts. So that is a kind of an adaptive conjoint analysis framework whereby the customers or the prospective buyers are focusing on multiple products, the final products having a kind of attributional set. So you are in a comparative mode to select the best attribute for you, and you select the attribute that suits your demand. That this thing I was referring to, a compositional versus decompositional preference model. I will give you the example also. If it is a compositional preference model for the respondents, that means the customers who will be under survey for this particular analysis, the respondents evaluate all the features. Okay, all the features means all the characteristics, all the attributes, the levels of particular attributes characterizing a product, combining these feature or attributes or specifications or configurations, evaluations possibly weighted by their importance, yields the products overall. Now, why this weightage is required? The weightage is required to convert the entire process into a normalized platform. Otherwise, you will find, I will just give you a small example after explaining compositional and decompositional, whereby you will feel that comparison of choice of attributes until and unless it is normalized will be very difficult. The second one is decompositional. Respondents provide overall evaluations of a series of products. This is rather the adaptive process whereby a lot of features are there, and it's very difficult for the respondent to go and find out the immaculate permutation and combination of the desired level of features. So respondents provide overall evaluations of a series of products composed of various combinations. So there you are given the opportunity to compare and then select. So various combinations of attribute levels. The overall evaluations are then decomposed into utilities associated with different levels of the various attribute. Utilities means the part worth. What an individual configuration worth to make a decision about purchasing that product. Say, for example, we gave this example of, say, 128 megapixel plus 24 megapixel plus 12 megapixel rear, triple rear camera. So what is the individual worth of this particular configuration so that it becomes a very significant decisive factor to purchase a mobile phone? Say for you see, when the mobile phones are being marketed, when the mobile phones are being offered, basically a mobile phone, what is the basic function? The basic function is to make you connect with people even when you are on the move. That's the main thing. And then we load these particular device with all kind of additive features like screen size and AMOLED display, and then the camera features and additional, a lot of features can be included in that. So to what extent screen size becomes a decisive factor? That means what is the part worth of this particular configuration? What will be the part worth of camera? What will be the part worth of internal memory? What will be the part worth of the processor being used? So all these things, what will be the part worth of this display mechanism? This becomes very important. The utilities associated with the different levels of the various attributes. Okay, so now let us take a look into an example of both compositional and decompositional preference model. So if we look into the compositional model, consider this following laptop for purchase. Say it is a Dell Mac with a 512 GB hard drive with 4 GB of RAM with 12.1 inch screen and at a price of say 35,000. So on a scale from 0, lowest, to 10, which is highest, how would you rate this computer on each of the attributes? So there are 5 attributes: the brand name, the hard drive, the RAM, the screen size, and the price. So you as a customer, you will be requested, or as a respondent or a prospective buyer, you will be requested to assign a total of 100 points to each of the 5 attributes, so that the points reflect the relative importance of each attribute. So you can assign points, and then we as a company or as a manufacturer, we will be in a position to identify, if I conduct 100 survey like this, we will be in a position to identify which is that particular utility factor, which is having the maximum utility score. Is it the brand itself, or is it the hard drive, is it the RAM? Which of these 5 attributes or configurational values? Okay, so this is a compositional model. But if we have something of a larger size, if I go to the decompositional model, then we will go for simple comparison and ranking. So there, the customer will be allowed to rank the following 4 descriptions of laptop or computers in terms of overall preferences. So there may be 5 or 4 profile. Here I have used the 4 profile. So the same attributions I have used: the brand, hard drive, RAM, screen size, and price. Now you will see 4 different brands, let's say HP, Dell, SR, and Sony, with different kind of hard drive sizes, different kind of RAM values, screen size also of assorted kind, and price changes. So I am asking the prospective buyer to rank it. So 1 means most likely to buy, and 4 will be the last choice. Okay, so then also, if I conduct a sizable survey, I will get certain understanding about the preference of the customer to make a purchase decision. So that will be another option for the marketer to decide what is the optimal attributional configuration, attributional composition or combination for a particular laptop. Now then, designing a stimuli, certain things you need to be very clear about. Say for example, I am designing a laptop or I am designing a mobile. Okay, say for example, in this case we are taking the example of designing a mobile handset. Okay, now there are 2 things. One is called the attributes, and the second one is called the level. So factor or attributes. Okay, and then the levels of those attributes. Okay, so there are 3 factors over here. The first one is color of the mobile, second one is the speed offered, and the third one is the price. And for each factor there are 2 different levels. So there are 2 colors. As far as the color is concerned, it is a 2 level kind of a thing. One is a golden color and a gray color. You can change the level, you can add level. So if you are adding level, if you are increasing the level, it can be black, it can be blue, whatever it is, you can increase it. Okay, now if I increase the level, the number of stimuli also increase. I will show you how. So speed, you can have 3G, you can have 4G, you can also add 5G. You can increase the level of speed also. For price, 2 levels. Okay, so there are 3 factor and 2 level. Fine. So what will be the design like? It will be stimuli of 2 cross 2 cross 2, because there are 2 levels each for these 3 factors. So if you see the stimuli, what will be, you can easily understand it from here, that there are 3 factors and these are 3 levels. So what will be the combination that a particular customer have to select from? So it will be a golden color 3G mobile with 25,000. That is number 1. It is golden color 3G mobile with 35,000. That's stimuli 2 or card 2. It is golden color. It's 4G with 25,000. That's the third option. It's golden. It's 4G 35,000. That's the fourth option. And similarly, there will be 4 options for this gray colored version also. So for an individual customer, there is a selection panel or a selection basket of 8 different mobile sets with 3 factors and 2 factors, 2 levels for each of the factor. So finding out which one is to be purchased will be a real task for the market. Which particular combination or configuration or specific specification will be maximum preferred by the customers. So we go for full profile. Normally we go for, when we do a conjoint analysis, we go for a full profile approach. Full profile approach means all the stimuli are considered in that particular analytical framework. So all possible stimuli are considered in that particular analytical framework. Or if you want to make a representative stimuli, you can also fix that thing up. Suppose if there is a huge number of stimuli, say more than 50, more than 60, more than 100, and if you want to represent it with a very desirable set of, say, 15 stimuli or 20 stimuli, you can also do that. Because as a company, you also feel that although there can be nth number of permutations and combinations depend on the number of levels and number of factors, maybe all the combinations are not appealing to the customer. So a particular manufacturer or a producer can have their own views with regard to what will be the maximum number of stimuli that we will consider, because the number of levels increases, the number of stimuli also increases. So with that particular stimuli set, the company or the producer, the market researcher or the market consultancy service is supposed to conduct a market survey with the help of the this particular stimuli, set of stimuli. And then say they decide to survey 100 prospective customers or 300 prospective customers or 500 prospective customers with the help of the stimuli set. So in this particular case, we have 8 stimuli set, and we go to the customers or prospective buyers and say that given a situation, how likely you are to buy it for each of these stimuli. So this is a very painstaking job for the respondent also, because they have to respond for each and every stimuli. To what extent you feel that you will purchase the stimuli number 1 or 2 or number 3 or number 4. So you can use a scale of 1 to 7, where 1 is representing not at all likely to buy, and number 7, certainly I will buy it. So you can go out to the prospective customers or to the prospective buyers with that stimuli set, and you can actually you can find it out. Now let us take a very simple hand-on exercise or a very small case study. This particular case study says that a particular car company, they want to launch a car. Okay, and so there are 5 attributes they have selected. Attribute number 1 is the model of the car. Attribute number 2 is the kind of fuel that it is to be used. Attribute number 3 is whether there will be airbags or not as a security system. Attribute number 4 is the braking system, whether there will be an ABS, the anti-braking system, and what will be the price of the car. So there are 4 attributes or 4 specifications or configurations, whatever you like to say. And for each of these attribute or factors or specifications or configuration, there are certain levels. Say, for example, for model of the car, there are 3 levels. They have selected to go for a SUV and sedan and convertible, and they have fixed 3 levels for the fuel also: petrol, diesel, and CNG. For airbags, either it's yes means airbags are present, or no, the model doesn't have an airbag system. In case of an anti-braking system also, either the model has an anti-braking system or it doesn't have. So 2 levels for airbags and anti-braking system. And price of the car, it is 15 lakhs, okay, to 25 lakhs. So there are 3 levels: 15, 20, and 25 lakhs. Now, how many you see, in this particular case, how many stimuli will be there? It's 3 into 3, 9 into 2, 18 into 2, 36 into 3, 108 different stimuli. So that's a lot of, stimuli for the for a particular organization, and it will be very difficult for the prospective customers. You will not find that patient, respondent who will sit for the entire day or for the entire week and keep on ticking for all those 108 different permutations and combinations or stimuli. So this company may decide to go for a small prototype kind of a check, okay, to find out what will be the ideal combination of say 20 to 22 different stimuli, and then make a very sample kind of a check. Okay, so they can have an understanding about that what will be the most preferred kind of a combination. So for this conjoint analysis to take place with the help of SPSS package, we need to conduct the analysis in two separate phases. So in phase one, we have to generate the cards. What are the cards? The cards are the stimuli. What will be the combination, the potential combination that will be placed before the customer. So the first level of analysis will be to generate the cards. The second level of analysis will be to use that card and go for the survey. So as I'm just repeating this, to conduct a conjoint analysis, first of all, you need to fix up you know, the factors or the attributes and the levels of the factor that will be conceptualized by the producer of the product or the designer of the service or the conceptualizer of the concept. So once you are through with that, the first level task at the SPSS level is to generate the number of stimuli or the number of combination that will be carried forward in the second phase of the study for the survey to the prospective customers or to a sample set. So we need to do two things. One is to generate the cards, and the second one is to generate the one is to generate the cards, and the second one is to conduct the survey. So first, let us generate the cards. So let us see how the cards can be generated. So that will be an interesting thing. So let us just open SPSS. See, when you are generating the cards, the first thing that you need to remember that you don't require any data set. Okay, when you are generating a card, because there what you are actually doing is you are actually trying to develop the survey instrument. Okay, because after designing the cards or after designing the set of stimuli, you will be going and you will be going for surveying the market and obtaining the data. Okay, so let us first see how to design the set of cards or the set of stimuli. Okay, based on this particular case study. This particular case study we will be using. Okay, so it's a blank worksheet for SPSS. Now, where we should go and what we should do to generate the cards or to generate the stimuli. Okay, navigate to the upper navigational panel, and you will find that there is a tab called data. So you click the data. So let me just repeat it. So at the upper navigational panel, there is a tab called data. You just click the data and scroll down and come to this aggregate. Under aggregate, there is a term called orthogonal design. So under orthogonal design, you click generate. Okay, so again, I'm showing you go to data, scroll down, come to aggregate. Under aggregate, there is orthogonal design, and click generate. So this is our basic window where we will be generating the stimuli or the cards or the combination. So what is the first factor name that we have got? The first factor name is the model of the card. Okay, so we can write model. Fine. The name of the factor is model. And now the factor label. Here you can actually describe what the factor is all about. So you can write a model of the car. Fine. So in the first small, window, we have written or we have specified the factor name. And in the second one, while labeling this factor, we have elaborated what it is all about. And then we are clicking add. So you see it is added over here. Now you just click on this particular thing and it will be selected. Now you have to add the values or define the values. So once you select, this particular define value tab will be activated. So you click on these define values. See how many levels are there? 3, isn't it? For the model of the car, the manufacturer or the producer is thinking about the 3 versions. One is the SUV version, second one is the sedan version, and the third one is the convertible. So 3 version or 3 levels. So let us go back to this. So this autofill kind of a tab, you just put the figure 3 over here. Why I am putting 3? Because the number of level is 3. So this particular blank box will contain that numerical figure which will be similar to the number of levels. Okay, now fill. So since it is auto filled, see the value of 1, 2 and 3 levels have been taken. What is the first level? SUV. What is the second level? It is the sedan. What is the third level? It is convertible. Okay, so just click after filling it up, you click continue. So now you can see the model, the factor name is specified, the label of the factor has been specified, and the levels of the factor has also been specified. So all the things have been done. What is the second factor? The second factor is fuel. Okay, so if I want to elaborate the factor, it is the types of fuel. Okay, so what type of fuel it is being used. Now we are adding it, the second factor with the second level. Select it, define values. Again, it will be 3 because there are 3 kind of fuel being used. The first one is petrol, the second one is diesel, and the third one is CNG. So again, you click continue and it is done. The third one probably was airbags, isn't it? Airbags. So either it is available, that means yes or no. So let us write over here airbags and just let us describe availability of airbags. Okay, add it. Again, define value. Now it is either yes or no. So it will be 2 level, isn't it? Fill. So the first one is yes, and the second one is no. Continue. So airbags. Then the anti-braking system. Say we are giving a factor name of ABS. Okay. Fitting of anti-braking system. Okay. Add. Select, define the values. It is also 2, fill it up. The first one is no, the second one is yes. Probably the first one is no. Yeah, the first one is no, the second one is yes. So continue. Now we have come to the last factor, price. So price of the vehicle. Okay, add and select it, define values, and there are 3 levels. One is 15 lakh, the second one is 20 lakh, and the third one is 25 lakh. Continue. So all the factors are given. Now you have to save this. So you have to create a new kind of a data file. So you can select this and you can save it. Say I am saving it. Say I am saving it on the desktop. I am giving it a name, R profile. Okay, and I'm saving it. Fine. And then you now we have seen that for this particular study, it will be a huge set of stimuli. It is a huge set of combination, huge number of combination, because 3 into 3, 9 into 2, 18, 36, 108, 108 combination is too high a figure to conduct a good, response survey, because the customers would not be that patient to go for their opinion on a 1 to 7 scale for 108 different permutations and combinations. So we need to find out a figure that the customers would be ready to go for a good response, and at the same time it will almost cover the desired level of combination. Okay, because ideal realistically, ideally it will give 108 different permutations and combinations, out of which a number of combination of specification won't be possible to manufacture realistically, or won't be accepted by the customers realistically. So as far as the demand pool is concerned, it will be with regard to a very limited focus kind of a choice set. So now to fix up this number, it can be a very random number. Say for this particular organization, say out of 108, say for example, let us take any abrupt number. Say they decided to go for 22 cards, to generate 22 cards. So what you can do over here is to click this box to reset a random number seed. This is a very random number seed. You can put any number. Say I am putting a very random number, and then I am going for an option. So minimum number of cases to generate, it will be say I am going for 22. Now here is a very interesting check over here, that I will be going, suppose I am going for 22 number of cards, or 22 number of permutations and combinations of the levels and factors, between levels and factors, and I want that a portion of the data, because against all these permutations and combinations, the response will be collected. So I will keep a section of the data to validate the rest of the data. So say for example, there are 22 number of permutations and combinations that I want to have. Now if I want to make a survey with the help of 100 prospective customers, out of that I need to hold back some data to validate the rest of the data. So there has to be a part of the data which will be for holdout cases, and this holdout case will validate the rest of the data. So the actual analysis will take place on 18 number of cards that will be surveyed for 100 customers, and the rest 4 number of cards that will be used to validate that 18 number of card data, but from the same respondent. So I can segregate, say 18 number of cases to generate, and number of holdout cases, say I am fixing it to 4. Okay, so total number of 22. So continue, and then you just place OK. Now you see a output window will be created. A plan is successfully generated with 18 cards. Okay, so let us see. This is the car profile. This is the particular file that we have created. So if I click it, it will open. Let me. Yeah, this is the thing that you have that we have created. Now let me check it like this. Yeah, you see there are 18. See, these are the 18 design models, or the status is design, and for the rest 4 it is the holdout cases. Okay, so we have 22 combinations or 22 card. You see on the this particular column, this is card number 1, this is card number 2, card number 3. That means you can see the permutations and combinations, or the specification combination. So card number 1, it is having SUV with diesel backup, with no airbag, with ABS, with price 25 lakh. Then it is card number 2, it is having a sedan with a petrol version with airbags but with no ABS, 25 lakhs. Then a sedan version, a diesel version with no airbags, with no ABS, 20 lakhs. So we have 22 different cards that we have generated, but we have a holdout card of phone number, which we will be using to validate this entire analysis. And there are 18 number of cards which will be actually used for the analysis process. So validation with the help of 4 combination or 4 cards, and the actual conjoint analysis will take place with the help of 18. Now comes one of the most critical issues of this particular conjoint analysis, whereby in the SPSS, probably till date you have not used it, or someone must have used it for different purposes. In the IBM SPSS, there is a window called syntax. Okay, in the syntax window, you can actually write out different kind of codes, and there are certain calculations, there are certain analysis which require a code support. You have to generate or write out a code, and that particular code can be used for the further analysis. So how to pull down the syntax window? So you go to file, you click new, and then you will find that there are a few options: a new data option, new syntax option, and new output option. So we are going to this syntax. So the syntax window looks like this. So all the codes are written over here. Okay, so you can type out the codes over here, and once you type out the code, there is a see, I have written, and this you look at this particular triangle over here, just in this particular tab box, long navigational tab box, this particular triangle, it is now deactivated. But the moment you are typing out something, that means I'm just trying to write out a code, perhaps it becomes activated. So once you finish typing out the code, you just click this run button, and the entire analysis will take place. For this conjoint analysis, there is a very specific code to be written, a very specific code, and you have to write this code very minutely. I will share with you this particular code. I have already written the code, because it requires uh, you know utmost concentration, because if one inverted comma or a full stop or a bracket or a typographical error, a case mistake takes place, then it will not run. So I will share this code with you. You can easily use it as a ready-made case. So let us see the code first, then you can understand what it is. See, this is the code. Okay, so you have to type it out. We have 22 number of cars, isn't it? Because we have 22 number of we have created 22 number of permutation and combination. Now if I see the data set over here, you see how many responses are there. There are 100 responses. So there are 100 prospective customers. They have given their response on a scale of 1 to 7. You remember we have talked about a scale of 1 to 7, isn't it? We have talked about a scale of let us go the not at all likely to buy, that is 1, and certainly I would buy, that's 7. So they have given response on a scale of 1 to 7 about all the 22 different permutations and combination. And you know very well that out of those 22 permutation and combinations, card 19, card 20, card 21, and card 22, these four specifications are the holdout cases, and these 18 cases will be put into the real analysis, and then the data validation will be taken up with the help of these four. Okay, so this is the data response data, the survey data that I am having, and this is the kind of syntax that you have to write. So get file, then you have to specify where your survey data set is lying. Then the conjoint plan you have to write, where your conjoint analysis card set is lying. That means you have to mention the path. I have just created in front of you that particular profile. The name of the file is this one, the car profile. So you can easily give the name of the path. So it will be on my C drive users, my name slash desktop, and the name of the profile, name of the file. Then backslash factors, and you have to specify all the factors that you have written while designing the card, like the factor name, the factor label, and the factor levels. Okay, so for fuel we have written types of fuel: petrol, diesel, CNG, and you have to minutely check all these inverted commas and brackets and capital and the small letters, etc. So a slight error over here, your thing will not run. So the airbags, availability of the airbags, etc., the price, all these things. Okay, so you need to run. Once you have written out all this code, I will share this code with you. This is the fundamental code. So if you want to conduct a conjoint analysis for a different kind of a setup, for a different kind of a product, or for a different kind of research question or research objective altogether, where you want to have certain understanding about the optimal combination of certain issues, you can only just use this draft and change all these factor names and factor levels, but be very sure that this basic structure remains the same. So where to put the inverted comma, where to put the bracket, where to put the backslash, etc., etc., you can just use it as a prototype and do your coding. So once we are having it, since I'm already having a data set, let me just check whether it is running or not, because I am not sure whether it will run, because I have not tested it. So once I have written everything, let me just test whether it runs or not. Hopefully it runs. So I have written this entire code. So what I have done in conjoint analysis, since I have said there are two phases, the first phase is to design the cards, and we have designed it, 22 cards, 18 for the analysis, 4 as a holdout case to validate the data analysis. And the second phase, use those 22 cards to go out in the market and conduct the survey. Here I have surveyed 100 prospective customers. Now I have written out, I have opened a new syntax window. I have written out the code to run this conjoint analysis. And once I have written out this code, and you see, I want score for all the 22 cards. Okay, so hopefully this will run. So once the entire thing code is written, here the last command I have given is plot. Okay, so all the graphical analysis, etc., which will give us a better understanding, will come to display. Now let us run it. Let me check whether it has run or not. Actually, so many files are opened, it will be difficult for me to. Let me close all these files. Just give me a second so that. Okay, it gives a wrong indicator. That's why I told you it's such a painstaking job. So one fault move and the entire thing falls off. Probably I've done some wrong somewhere. Anyway, the idea is like that only. We do not know whether this will work or not. Let me check whether I have saved any output. Yeah. Actually, I have done this previously. I can't show you live because probably I have done some mistake in the coding. This I have done it earlier using that same data set, so I can show you the result. Because after running that particular code, actually you will get this kind of a result. Okay, now you see these are all the utility estimates. Okay, and the utility estimates will be calculated for all the 100 customers. You see, all the 100 customers, and all the graphical representations will also come. Okay, now you see subject one means the response number one, or the respondent number one, or for the first prospective customer. And you scroll down and you will find that this calculation is taking place for all the 100 customers. So there will be individual output for all the 100 customers that you have surveyed. Okay, but it will be very difficult for an individual researcher or for a marketer to actually go through the analysis for all the individual customers. So they require something which is very comprehensive, and where all the survey outputs will be taken together. So if you can come down to the graphical analysis of this particular output conjoint analysis, you will have certain beautiful graphical representations which will help you to interpret. Now this is the ultimate thing that we are trying to find out. You see over here the important summary, which is I have conducted survey for 100 customers with the kind of configuration with 5 factors. Okay, now which factor has received the most importance by the customer? That is the type of fuel. So if I go for the data leveling, say I'm going into the data label mode. So if I place it, so almost 39, there are 100 customers, so almost 39%. The first choice, that means when they are deciding on purchase, the first thing they would like to see that what type of fuel the car is using. The next one is the price of the vehicle, so that is 22%, 22.65. So then comes the model of the product, and then the frill benefits or the fringe benefits, or the all the added values, like the availability of the airbags and the anti-braking system. And still you will find the anti-braking system as a security feature is slightly higher preferred compared to the availability of airbags. So what is the crux of this particular finding is, when you are designing a particular product, make very sure that the basic function of the product, or the very fundamental functionalities of the product are in good shape, or it should be there. Okay, and you can increase on in the features, say a very good stereo system, a very good air conditioners, etc., etc. You can increase on the frills, but probably that won't be a very important or a significant decisive factor when the customer is making a very complex decision based on multiple number of specifications. So types of fuel in these case is one of the most prominent decisive factors. So when you are designing your product, what kind of fuel you will be using, that becomes very important. Now that you know what kind of fuel is basically the determining factor, you have to find out what kind of fuel is preferred. You come over here and see the summary utilities, particularly for the fuel. Petrol slightly higher compared to that of diesel, but CNG probably, I do not know, because the customers might have thought about the availability factor. All over the region, the CNG facilities are not available, etc. So when it comes to this particular utility value, the fuel, petrol is having a higher value. So you can now think about a car which will be sedan, because sedan is scoring higher than that SUV. Sedan, a petrol version with availability of airbags, it's no is on the higher side. uh, so you may not go for airbags. uh, Probably the braking system, you can use the anti-braking system. And the price factor, you see, this is pretty interesting, because normally the manufacturers would have a perception that higher the price, lesser will be the demand, or there will be a attrition of the customers. But here you see, the price is not a deciding factor. The price is not that important a factor, because 25 lakhs, it's probably the most acceptable value, followed by 20 lakh. What about the lower cost? Because probably we do not know, as a surveyor, or as a market research organization, probably we have got hold of that group of customers who are very quality conscious in nature. So when we say that the price is the second factor, and when we look into this particular result, that 20 with 25 lakhs is quite acceptable, then probably we can design our product or our vehicle according to this part worth or the utility worth of the individual component. So this is the use of the conjoint analysis, which gives you a nice understanding about what are the factors that are given maximum weightage by the group of customers that we are actually targeting to, and what are the levels which are receiving the maximum importance. So this is the application, you can say, about the conjoint analysis. And most of the companies or industries, they are using conjoint analysis. Actually, they are not using it directly these days. They are hiring the market research agencies, or the consultancy firm, or the data analysis agencies to comprehend these surveys. Only they give the product concept, or the concept of the combination of the factors that are to be included in a particular product, and the market research agencies, they deploy this entire analytical process and comes up with the result, and give the suggestion or consultancy to the producers about which particular combination of product or range of products to be marketed. So this is all about conjoint analysis. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you the live streaming of the code. Perhaps I have written it in a wrong way. But anyway, I had this saved version, so I could show you. This is the nature of the output. And you can use these utility, graphs in your journal paper also. In PhD thesis, you should you are supposed to include all these things, because the graphical representations, it speaks nicely about, or it elaborates, or it supports all your conclusions. So because you are saying that this is the optimal combination, attribute combination for a particular product which a company should go for, then it should be justified with some certain kind of visual output. So this particular analysis provides you with a nice visual output, as well as the tabular output also. So this is all about conjoint analysis. So Dada, we can stop over here.
Okay, sir. So thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay.
Any question, any
So, yeah,
clarification?
any question? Because I thought that I can show you that SPSS modular function also. Your next session is starting from 5:30.